Hello, world. Warm welcome to our first episode of Inspiring Millions Show, presented by WHD Media. This is the show that aims to share inspiration, peace, love, and hope with the world. I'm your host, Viva Andrada O'Flynn, Global Media Relations of World Humanitarian Drive, inviting you to join us as we have an inspiring discussion with Dr. Anandhi Narasimhan. Join us here on WHD's Inspiring Millions Show. WHD Media presents Inspiring Millions Show. Warm welcome to the show where we interview inspiring people from around the world to share with us their story. Thank you for joining us on live or replay. Here's a brief background about World Humanitarian Drive. World Humanitarian Drive, also known as WHD, is an international NGO founded in Croydon, UK, by British Indian global peace activist, entrepreneur, writer, Dr. Abdul Basit Syed. The primary vision of WHD is to promote peace, education, and trade harmony initiatives globally. WHD promotes peace and harmony among everyone across the world, regardless of race, religion, or nationality, living as one family. We are so proud to launch the Inspiring Millions Show to inspire the world with WHD, which is one of the primary vision of our founder chairman, Dr. Abdul Basit Syed. Also, the Inspiring Millions Show wouldn't be possible without the WHD team who is working behind the screens. Lead and special mention to WHD Director of Global Operations, Ms. Sarah Wilson, who is ensuring this show goes smoothly. So we'll do our best to make this discussion as engaging and interactive as we can. We're going to need your help. We would be delighted if you could please help us spread inspiration by sharing this link. Put your questions or comments in the chat box. Let us also know where you are watching this. This Inspiring Millions Show is World Humanitarian Drive's latest offering to share inspiration, love, joy, and hope with the world. On each episode, we will have a conversation delving into the brilliant minds of our guests, inspiring and sharing inspiration with the world. So in the UK, we are celebrating the Children's Mental Health Week from the 1st of February until the 8th. It is only fitting that our first guest is a children's adult psychiatrist. So here is a brief background about our honorable guest. Dr. Anandhi Narasimhan is a board-certified physician specializing in child, adolescent, adult psychiatry. Dr. Anandhi currently runs a private practice in Los Angeles, in addition to serving as an independent contractor for nonprofit agencies with the Department of Mental Health. Awards and recognition Dr. Anandhi has received. She is the recipient of Hind Ratan, which is Jewel of India. She's an award winner, presented by the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. Our honorable guest, Dr. Anandhi Narasimhan, is also the Secretary General of WHD USA. Dr. Anandhi has made several media appearances, including CNN, USA Today, Fox News, and today we are honored to have her join us here in WHD's Inspiring Millions Show. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Anandhi.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Dr. Anandhi is also a scuba diver. So before we dive into our discussion, a little backstory would be awesome. Dr. Anandhi, could you please share with us how you got to be a doctor, take us on a journey, and how you got to be where you are? Could you please introduce to us who is Dr. Anandhi?
Yes. My journey is interesting. I have family members who are in the medical field. My mother is a retired OBGYN doctor, so she had a lot of passion for medicine. So I was introduced to that passion at a young age. My father was also a biotechnologist, and so this drive for learning and kind of looking at learning from a lifelong perspective, like this is a journey that we're on, to educate ourselves, to make progress, to contribute to society. So these were all kind of the principles I had in mind. I actually thought I might become a surgeon because I really liked it. But then I did some research with a wonderful mentor and boss, Mike DeBellis. And he was looking at brains, and he was doing neuroimaging research on the brain. And I was like, this is fascinating. There's so little that we know about the brain. And there's so much more that we need to know about the brain. And I found it very fascinating. I found it intellectually stimulating. And I love children. I've always loved children. I've had a lot of children in my family, and I really enjoy them. I think they just give such a fresh perspective on our problems, and just bring joy. And so I also learned that when you do a small intervention at a young age, it can be so meaningful across a person's life. So there's really a lot of opportunity to allow a child to blossom and thrive. So that's how I got into the field of psychiatry, and then I specialized in child psychiatry, and then did like a gazillion years of training. There was a lot of training and a lot of exams and stuff to become a child psychiatrist, but it's very rewarding. And it's just, the people that I work with, the adults and the children, they just remind me every day of why I do this work. I also have a lot of interest in international mental health, international psychiatry. So I've done some volunteer work with refugees, the refugee population, doing workshops, and I'm an asylum evaluator for Physicians for Human Rights, which I'm very proud of. And I'm also a lover of the arts and humanities. I grew up learning Indian classical dancing. I was really, really passionate about it. At one point, I thought I was going to be a dancer as a profession. So music and culture, and art and literature, I think makes the world colorful. So with that, I've been able to incorporate some of my interests in medical journalism and educating the public and sharing some of the knowledge I've acquired. So it's been great and fulfilling. And I picked up scuba diving along the way, which is also an interesting story because I learned how to swim kind of like a month before I got certified. So that was an interest. And then I went diving like different parts of the world. So it's given me like a whole nother world to explore in the water.
That's just so amazing, Dr. Anandhi. So thank you for sharing with us your story and passions in life. So what are your important lessons? What are the important lessons that you've learned in your journey?
A few lessons I've learned that we all feel better when we have an emotionally generous spirit. When we wake up and we do something that's meaningful, or we do something for someone else who's less fortunate than us, I think that just makes the world have some sense of purpose. So I try to keep that in mind, is that just coming from a spirit of emotional generosity and empathy, like trying to understand another person's experience, whether it's in your personal life or the work that you do, is just cultivating that spirit of emotional generosity is important. I've also learned that, children and women are very valuable resources for the world, and we need to invest in them. And sometimes the smallest intervention makes a big difference for people. So it's important the words that we choose, the energy that we present, and I also think. And this isn't a show about parenting, but this modeling of some kind of positive energy is important, because life, there has to be some moments of joy in life. So I don't think about just how can a child's needs be met. I think about how do we bring them joy? How do we have them look at life with abundance and not from a position of scarcity? Because when you can look at life with abundance, it allows you to believe that you can thrive. And I think all young people should grow up believing that they can thrive. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned. And also, like, self-reflection. I think that at the root of everything is, what could I do today? What can I do tomorrow? What do I need to work on? Do I need to manage my emotions better? Do I need to be more positive or grateful, or those things? Like, just reflecting on my own living with intention, in terms of what I do professionally and how I live my life personally.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anandhi. I like what you said. It's very inspirational. And then you said something like, we feel better when we give, when we share with others. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us. So my next question is, what are the challenges you see people face these days, and how do you guide them?
We're living in a time where there is no shortage of challenges. There's a pandemic going on, and it's causing a monumental loss of life worldwide. Most people are affected in some way or another. If it's not their physical health, it's the health of a loved one. If it's not that, if it's the economic impact that causes stress, it's having their children do virtual schooling, and the challenges that come with that, both for the child and their caregivers. And on top of it, ordinary life stress, apart from a pandemic. Everybody goes through things, and many people really suffer with homelessness and disease and adverse life experiences and trauma. There's a lot of trauma in the world. So those are all the challenges that we have. In terms of guiding people, part of it is allocation of resources. Like, it's not just about telling someone, hey, change your attitude and you change your life. No, sometimes people are really in situations that they need a lot of help with, whether it's grief from the loss of those who were there to protect you or take care of you, and you end up in a foster care system, or a job loss, or a relationship loss. These are real things that people experience, and there's real life problems. And in our last US chapter event, we talked about the problem of food scarcity. Now, that has become an increasing problem worldwide from this pandemic. So that is something that we need to think about. Resources, like, is there case management that can help? What are the things that can be done from a logistical and practical view that can help these problems? So I think, necessities, like, make people need to have necessities, and trying to figure out how that can happen is the first step. And then the second step is, people need attention to their physical health. People need attention to their mental health. And the mental health piece has been dismissed largely for a long, long time now. And I'm very happy to see that more people are talking about it. More people are being transparent about mental health. We still have such a long way to go, but that's really important, because the mental health piece is profound. And it's very important. So we need resources, we need training programs, we need to teach people how to incorporate certain evidence-based therapies so that people can deal with mental health issues, because it's not going away. So those are the challenges, and those are some of the ways to approach. And then, you know, what this organization is about, humanity, and having humanitarian values in our leadership, in those in leadership positions, and those who make policies that can really hurt people. One example of this is, and this was our first US chapter event, was discussing the treatment of children at the US-Mexican border. There's been this appalling family separation policy, among others, that have been instituted, and it's caused a lot of harm, a lot of harm. So sometimes you can have passion and anger about injustices. And I think if that drives you to try to create change or fight for change, that's very useful. Peace activists and peace leaders, whether it's Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King, they were very passionate people that were really driven by their passion for change. So I think feeling angry about injustices is a good thing,
Okay.
if it's used constructively.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's the thing. I get your point, Dr. Anandhi. So, with all that's going on in the world right now, many of us are staying at home, and then frontliners such as yourself are out there risking their lives for us to keep life moving. So, parents, you mentioned this one earlier, that parents are educating their children at home. So, do you have any tips for parents in caring for their children at this time?
Um, it's I think that parenting, and I write about this, I wrote about this in a book that I'm publishing, that literally is about questions that parents ask me. I think with respect to parenting, there's not it's not an easy one-step approach. It involves some nuance, it involves some perspective taking, and children are going through a lot in this time. A lot of them, they're not allowed to see friends as much. They are doing the virtual schooling, so they're not getting the social interaction that they would otherwise. So this can be really hard for the child. It can be hard for parents. A lot of parents are they're really struggling with having their child at home all the time, and there's like tension and a lot of difficulty around monitoring the amount of digital time that a child engages in. So I think there's if there's one thing to say is empathy building is really important, both for your children and for yourself as the caregiver. Like, you have to have empathy and self-compassion for your experience and understand, what can you do? Can you take a walk? Can you get some exercise? Can you do some things that can help you, whether it's meditation, whatever? So kind of addressing that self-care part, and managing our own stress. I think the best way to deal with all of this is also attend to yourself, because if you tend to yourself and take care of yourself, that'll be better for your children as well.
Okay, that's great. So we just have to tend to ourselves as well. So for this year's Children's Mental Health Week, the theme is express yourself. So how would you encourage children to express themselves?
That's a great question. I was just speaking to someone yesterday from National Geographic about poetry and mental health. You know, a lot of what we do in therapy is kind of put our thoughts out on a written form or a verbal form, so that we can break things down and we can break down our thought process. So one way that is, I think, a really wonderful way is writing. If children can be taught to write about their experiences, draw about their experiences, express a creative outlet in what they're going through and in their journey, that can be really powerful. Because one, they can see the written word and they can put their thoughts in such a way to evaluate them and reflect on them and think about different ways of approaching situations. So that can be really helpful. It's one of the first things that we do in a type of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy. And secondly, I think the whole concept of being in a vulnerable moment as people, when we are vulnerable with others, it fosters a sense of connection, and it reduces feelings like shame. And when you have a reduction in those kind of feelings, it improves your whole overall well-being. It improves your immunity, and it improves your immunological defenses. So knowing how to express yourself and be vulnerable with people that you trust, I think is very powerful for all of us. So I think finding creative outlets, finding ways to express themselves, um, nurturing their physical activity, because we all, even during a pandemic, we all have to figure out some ways of being physically active, because that has profound influences on your mental health. So I think that these things can be very helpful. Physical activity, finding productive, effective ways of expression. And you know, every child is an individual. They are different. They come with different needs. Many of them deal with disabilities, and really having a kind of an innovative approach of understanding their life experience and how to help them without chastising them or shaming them, or, you know, things like that that are detrimental and not helpful.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Anandhi. I could attest to having a creative outlet and also physical activities, as you mentioned. So, if you could turn back the time and talk to your 13-year-old self, what would you tell her?
What would I tell her? Not to take herself too seriously and just kind of, you know, live in the moment, and not worry so much about the future. Don't worry about what other people think so much. And, you know, just life is short, as we are seeing more than ever now. So just kind of try to embrace the moment, and still like continue to think of others and think about purpose, having a purpose, and what to do with that purpose, and kindness. Just remember to be kind. So yeah, those are some of the things I would tell myself, and a couple of other things too. So not about being sensitive. I think sensitivity is a good thing, because if we're not sensitive, then we don't uh, you know, feel for others in some ways, and understand their experiences. So I think a bit of sensitivity is good, but in moderation, with limits. And
Sure.
fearlessness. Like I would tell myself, be fearless. You know, look at the same things I've just described. Look at life with abundance. Don't look at it with scarcity, and expand your mind, and don't be fearful.
Those are brilliant words. So here's something we'd like to ask you, Dr. Anandi, since you're in the USA. So America has a new president. What's America now with a new president, President Biden?
Yes.
Yeah, so what's America now with a new president?
Oh, what is America now? Well, you know, politics is such a tricky thing. I mean, it can be so polarizing, and people can like turn on each other. because of different political views and stuff. So I think a leader that brings people together, that focuses on uh, having a good heart as a leader is so important. A person who really cares about the people. And I think at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants in a leader, is someone who cares and someone who is going to pass policies that help those in need. Every nation needs to take care of their young and their old, and that's important. That's who we are as a society, in terms of where we need to be. We need to take care of the young and the old. So like a leader that cares about that. I'm hopeful that some of these harsh immigration policies that affect people's lives can be changed, and we can have leadership that operates from a humanitarian viewpoint. So, and the appointed officials are those who have humanitarian interests in mind. So that's what I'm hopeful for, and I'm hopeful that over time the country can be less divided, and people can really heal, because there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. Um, so that is kind of my hope for this administration and the future of this country. Of course, it's wonderful to have a vice president who's both female and representing two different minority ethnicities in this country, and I think that's huge and wonderful for women everywhere. So, and it's been long overdue that we have a woman in such a appointed office. So I'm very excited about that as well. So yeah, I have hope. I hope, I think that we all hope that um, leaders will do good and do the right thing when needed.
There's hope for the USA and hope for the world. So we've read from your tweet with Twitter handle, Dr. Anandhi. So you've had a COVID jab. What was it like having Moderna vaccine?
Um, it was pretty uneventful. I just had some tenderness on the injection site that went away in like a day or 2 days, and my arm was a little sore, but it was tolerable. I'm glad I got it, and I hope that everyone can receive the vaccine, and we can fight this pandemic and not have it be so destructive. So I think the rollout can't happen soon enough. And there's some real problems in the rollout. There's inequities, there's racial inequities about who's getting it, and so I think those issues need to be addressed right away, however possible, so that there's equal access. And there's organizational issues, such as people who don't have internet access and how to schedule appointments for it. So yeah, it was a very tolerable experience, and I hope everyone considers getting vaccinated.
Dr. Anandi, so what would you like to tell people who are afraid of having their vaccine?
There's a lot of reasons why people fear getting the vaccines, and they're justifiable reasons. In this country, we have, a history of medical racism, such as with the Tuskegee syphilis study. So, for many people, many African Americans, they may be wondering, am I going to get the same vaccine that somebody else is going to get, or is someone going to give me something that's harmful? So these are all valid concerns and fears. So I would suggest, just if you're hesitant, if you're fearful about it, just open up your curiosity about it, and talk to people who know about it or do some reading about the benefits of getting the vaccine, because what's happening in hospitals all over the world, it's depressing to hear about everything that's happening. So people need to have available resources to protect themselves, and that's in the form of the vaccine. And that's one thing we can do. We still have to practice the other measures because there are variants, and we don't know how well the vaccines work for all the different variants, and viruses mutate. So you still need to protect yourself and practice the public health measures, but a vaccine is one tool that can really help us. So for those who are fearful, like what I said, be fearless, and think about the benefits to your health, even in spite of the fears, which there's a lot of history, and these fears are justified. But open yourself to the possibility that this could be life-saving.
Oh, that's a great message, Dr. Anandhi. So, Dr. Anandhi, you're also the Secretary General of WHD USA. So, you've been having great online WHD events. What are your future plans for WHD USA going forward?
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've had some great events. We've had some great guests who've devoted their time, and we've had a great team. Uh, we've had John Baton Mitchell, who's done some of the hosting. He's done a wonderful job of moderating some of our events. Reagan Thomas, who's been kind of like a creative director and producer, as well as the national coordinator, has really brought her vision into some of the events and really kind of added life to them. So we've had wonderful work being done for the events. And I think in the future, just, the things that we feel are important at the time, we want to just bring in various experts or individuals that are affected and just hear stories and, um, create change if possible.
That's
From a humanitarian angle. So that's kind of, I think that's where we're headed, and to be determined about some of the other things that we're thinking about. I mean, this month is Black History Month, and we're hoping to put something together to honor those who have fought for civil rights.
That's so many things to look forward to. So, our final question, the show is inspiring millions. What is your inspiring message to the world?
When you face adversity, remember there's always someone out there who's rooting for you. Somewhere in this world, someone's out there who cares. And so when you're in a moment of despair or feeling hopeless, that there is love and caring. You may not see it, it may not be right in front of you, but somebody cares. And to remember that in moments of adversity.
Thank you so much for that very inspiring message. Thank you to our honorable guest today, Dr. Anandhi Narasimhan, WHD Secretary General USA, for inspiring us today with her story. We really enjoyed listening to Dr. Anandhi's perspective of things to do with life. And we come towards the end of WHD's Inspiring Millions. So here's a quote by Rita Pearson. Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they can become the best they can be. Thank you for the opportunity to host this show. I'm Viva Andrada O'Flynn. Please join us again next week as we interview a Polish princess, Angelica, UN Peace Ambassador. So this has been World Humanitarian Drive's Inspiring Millions show. If today's discussion inspired you, please share the link with your family and friends. Share with us your takeaways from today. Follow us on our social media accounts, WHD Media, and our website is www.whd.org.uk for more inspiring events. Thank you for joining us. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. To our frontliners, we salute you. We'll see you again soon. Inspiration, peace, and love to you all. Join us again next week here on WHD's Inspiring Millions Show.